Last week we studied the mind or thought processes. Now, this chapter deals with different kinds of thought processes. And there are 5 sense-door thought process and mind-door thought process. And 5 sense-door thought process is divided into very great, slight, and very slight. And then mind-door thought process is divided into first kama vajara and appana. Appana means Mahagata and Lokutra. And kama vajara is divided into vibhuta and avibhuta. Clear object, having clear object, and obscure object. And then appana thought process is also divided into jhana, and then magga, and then nirodha. Jhana is divided into 2. First attainment, and then later attainment, sustained attainment. And magga thought process also the magga thought process and later phala attainment thought process. So now today we'll study the path thought process. Actually, path thought process will be described in the 9th chapter. In this chapter, path thought process is just implied but not described separately. But I think we should study the path thought process here also. And then when we come to the 9th chapter, we will study it again. So, path thought process arises when a person gains enlightenment. Suppose a person is practicing vipassana meditation and he progresses from one stage of vipassana knowledge to another. So when he practices vipassana meditation, there are millions and millions of thought processes, vipassana thought processes. They are actually kama vajara, mind or thought processes. And these thought processes take miscellaneous formations as object. Miscellaneous formations means actually conditioned phenomena or just mind and matter. So when you practice vipassana meditation, you take mind or matter as object and try to see impermanent, suffering, and no soul nature of mind and matter. Try to see its arising and their arising and disappearing and so on. So these objects of vipassana meditation are called miscellaneous formations, different kinds of formations, different kinds of sankharas. So when a person is practicing vipassana meditation, his mind or thought processes take these miscellaneous formations, mind or matter, as object. And suppose his vipassana becomes matured, and so now he is going to attain enlightenment. So at the moment of attainment of enlightenment, the path thought process arises. So that path thought process goes first, say, bhavanga, and then vibrating bhavanga, and then arrested bhavanga, chalana bhavanga, and upacheda bhavanga. And after that, bhavanga is arrested, and vichichedas, process consciousness arises. So there are 4 moments of kama vajra javana, the same as in jhana thought process. In the jhana thought process, there are what? Parikama, ubajara, anuloma, kotrabu. But before them, there is what? Mind door adverting. So instead of 5 sense door adverting, here we have mind door adverting. So manodvara vajana. After manodvara vajana has turned the mind towards the object, then there is first parikama, and then upachara, and then anuloma, and then actually kotrabu. So these 4 moments represent what? Kama vajra kusala associated with knowledge. Jnana sampayutta kama vajra kusala. So the first one is called parikama, preparation, and second one upachara, that means neighborhood or access, and the third one is called anuloma, that is it conforms both preceding and succeeding moments, and the fourth one is called gotrabhu. Now I explained about gotrabhu last week. So what is the meaning of gotrabhu? Change of lineage, right? Gotra means lineage, and bhu means bhu means to overcome or to enter into. So gotrabhu means to overcome here, to overcome puthojana lineage, because from the moment of Magga he is going to be a noble person, Ariya. So at the moment of gotrabhu, the puthojana lineage is overcome, and it enters into, or it pushes into, Ariya lineage. So it overcomes puthojana lineage and it enters into Ariya lineage. So that is why it is called gotrabhu. Now, although there are 4 kama vajra javanas, parikama, upachara, anuloma, and gotrabhu, they have different objects. Now you see, parikama, upachara, and anuloma have miscellaneous formations as object, but gotrabhu has nibbana as object. In the 3rd chapter, the section on objects, you can go back to that chapter. Those that take nibbana as object, kama vajra kusala jnana sampayutta, right? Now, although it is stated in general that kama vajra kusala jnana sampayutta can take nibbana as object, actually only when it functions as gotrabhu can it take nibbana as object. It is direct seeing of nibbana. When we do some meritorious deed, and we say, may I attain nibbana. So that nibbana is not real nibbana. It is just a designation nibbana, or some kind of concept. So here, gotrabhu takes nibbana, really takes nibbana as object. So it is an exception. Because in one thought process, the object of the thought movements must be the same. But in this thought process, the object is different. So the object of Manodwara, Vajana, Parikama, Upajara and Anuloma is what? Miscellaneous formations or conditions, phenomena, mind and matter. But the object of Gudrabhu is Nibbana. And after Gudrabhu comes Magga, path consciousness, followed by 2 moments of Phala consciousness. And then lapses into Bhavanga. Now, when we talk about enlightenment, we must understand with reference to this thought process. So, I saw one mistake here. It says akusala kama vajra chita. So it should be kusala. Kama vajra kusala. In English is correct. Wholesome sense sphere chetas. So parikama, anuloma, upachara, anuloma and gudrabhu are wholesome sense sphere chetas. So kama vajra kusala chetas. Magga is what cheta? Magga is lokuttara cheta, right? Supramundane cheta. And 2 phala movements also supramundane cheta. Now, at the moment of Magga, what happens? Destruction of defilements, destruction of kilesas. So when we say the defilements are destroyed or eradicated, we mean this moment of path consciousness. So, what is the object of path consciousness? Nibbana, no? Right? And what is the function of path consciousness? Destruction of defilements. So what we mean by enlightenment is just this moment of Magga. So Magga consciousness arises taking Nibbana as object and doing the function of destroying the defilements. So Magga is so strong, so powerful, that by just arising once, it can eradicate mental defilements altogether, so that they do not arise again. You all know that at the moment of Sotapaddi Magga, how many kilesas are destroyed? You remember? Wrong view and doubt. If you don't remember, don't worry. when you reach 9th chapter, then you'll understand. So, at the moment of Sotapaddi Magga, 2 defilements are eradicated. Then when they are eradicated once and for all. So they will never arise again in that person. So Magga has that power. That is why the abandonment of Magga is called complete abandonment. There are 3 kinds of abandonment, right? Momentary, temporary, and altogether. When you are say learning Abhidhamma, or when you are paying homage to the Buddha, you do not have defilements, and that is momentary abandonment. If you get jhana, if you practice vipassana, and you can put these mental defilements away from you for some time, and that is temporary. And when you reach the stage of Magga, you can destroy them altogether. So that is In Pali it is called samuchcheda, that means cutting off. When you cut something, then it is cut and cannot be joined again. So at Magga, the defilements are destroyed, the respective defilements are destroyed once and for all, and so they never arise in that person again. That Magga movement is followed by, in this thought process, 2 Phala movements. So Phala movements are the results of Magga movement. So there is nothing intervening between Magga and Phala. So Magga is the cause and Phala is the result. So the cause and result, the result follows the cause immediately. Now, the attributes of Dhamma. One attribute of Dhamma is what? Akalika. Akalika is translated as timeless. But that is not easy to understand. Timeless. Now, akalika means it does not wait for another time to give results. So that means it gives immediate result. So immediately after its disappearing, the fruit, the phala arises. So when we say Dhamma is akalika, Dhamma is without time, we mean by Dhamma Magga, not phala and not nibbana. So Magga movement is followed by 2 movements of phala. And what is the function of these phala movements? Further tranquilization of defilements. That means, see, Magga puts out the fire, and then phala movements put some more water on the fire already put out by Magga, so that they cannot burn again. So that is what the phala movements do. So they are called in Pali patipassadi, tranquilizing again, pacifying again. So that means they keep the defilements well eradicated so that they cannot come up again. So 2 phala movements and then lapse to bhavanga. So this is the path thought process. In the path thought process there are phala movements also, but we just call it path thought process because phala is always connected with Magga. So after that, bhavanga moments arise, and then the reflection thought processes follow. They are mind or thought processes. Now this is path thought process. And after reaching the first Magga, let us say, that person wants to enter into it again. But as you know, Magga consciousness does not arise more than once, right? So what he enters into is into phala moments. So in order to get into phala moments and enjoy the bliss of emancipation, he practices vipassana again. And then the sustained attainment of phala thought process arises. I think there are diagrams of them. Mind or thought processes. So, appana magga, right? Now, the first one is for sotapatti magga. There can be 2 kinds of path thought process. For those who are of average faculty and for those who are of keen faculty. So for those who are of average faculty, there are 4 Kamavajra moments: Parikama, Ubajara, Anuloma, and Kodrabu. And there are 2 moments of Phala. But for those of keen faculty, there are only 3 moments of Kamavajra javanas: Ubajara, Anuloma, and Kodrabu. And 3 Phala moments. You know why there are 3 Phala moments here? You don't? They want to make 7. So, Parikama, Ubajara, Anuloma, Kodrabu, Magga, Phala, and Phala. 7 moments, right? So for those of keen faculty, Ubajara, Anuloma, Kodrabu, Magga, Phala, Phala, Phala. So there are 3 Phala moments. That is for keen faculty. Now, for upper Maggas, Sakadagami Magga, Anagami Magga, and Arahata Magga. So for upper Maggas, the same thought process, but with a different name for Gotrabu. So instead of calling it Gotrabu, here it is called Vodana. Vodana means cleansing. Because after one attains Sotabadi Magga, one is already an Ariya. So Gotrabu cannot arise there. There is no lineage to overcome and to enter into. So that moment is called Vodana instead of Gotrabu. But actually it is also the Kamavajra Javana. So there are Manodvara Vajana, Parikama, Ubajara, Anuloma, Vodana, and then Magga and 2 Phala moments. That is for average faculty. For those of keen faculty, drop Parikama. And then put 1 more Phala. So the others are the same. The difference is only with Parikama and without Parikama, and also instead of Kodrabu, there is Vodana. So sustained Phala attainment. Next page. In the sustained Phala attainment, what do you find? Four Anuloma moments. So 4 moments are called Anuloma here. It's confusing, right? The same 4 moments, but they are not called Parikama, Ubajara, Anuloma, Gotrabu, but all are called Anuloma. So 4 moments of Anuloma. And then no Magga. Instead of Magga, there is Phala. And then there is another Phala without the circles, but just dots. So that means there are many moments of Phala, millions and millions of moments of Phala. That is for average faculty. And for a person of keen faculty, you drop what? 3 Anuloma, right? Yeah, that's all. So the others are the same. So that is for Phala Samapatti thought process. So with regard to path thought process, we have to understand the path thought process, and then that is immediately followed by reflection, Kamavajra thought processes. We'll study them in the 9th chapter. And then there can be also sustained attainment thought processes. So this third thought process is first attainment thought process. When it is when in sustained thought process, no magga arises, but instead phala moments arise millions and millions of times. And again, the kamavachara javanas preceding magga do the function of what? Parikama, Anuloma and Godrabu, and they take miscellaneous formations as object, and Godrabu takes Nibbana as object. And then Magga follows, and then two phala moments, right? Now there is a question. I don't know whether I discuss here or just wait until we come to the 9th chapter. Can we call Godrabu Vipassana or not? Okay, I leave it here. Because Vipassana does not take, Godrabu does not take miscellaneous formations as object, right? It takes Nibbana as object. If it is Vipassana, it must take miscellaneous as objects. So actually it is out of Vipassana. But you may call it Vipassana if you like. But strictly speaking, it is not Vipassana. It is a culmination or the topmost part, right, of Vipassana. Okay, now we study the correlations in absorption. Chapter 4, section 15. Now you have to look at the Chitta chart. If you have read the book, you already know it. Okay, now I'll read the English translation. Therein, immediately after a javana, accompanied by joy, that means somanasa javana. Here, somanasa javana means somanasa kamavachara javana. So, immediately after a javana accompanied by joy, absorption, that means jhana and magga phala. Absorption accompanied by joy may be expected. That means somanasa javana is followed by somanasa appana, right? Somanasa javana, kamavachara javana. Somanasa javana is followed by somanasa appana. And then immediately after a javana accompanied by equanimity, that means ubekha. Absorption occurs accompanied by equanimity. So ubekha javana is followed by ubekha appana, right? So either in the jhana thought process or magga thought process, parikama, upachara, anuloma and godrabu can be somanasa or ubekha. So if they are somanasa, then magga must follow, the following magga must be somanasa. If they are ubekha, magga must be ubekha. The same with jhanas. So somanasa javanas are followed by somanasa appana. Ubekha javanas are followed by ubekha appana. And again, immediately after a wholesome javana, kusala javana, absorption occurs through a wholesome javana and the three lower fruits. That means After Kusala Javana, the Appana Javanas are Kusala and 3 lower phalas. After Kusala Javana follow Kusala Javanas and 3 lower phalas. Immediately after a functional Javana, that means after Kiriya Javana, absorption occurs through a functional Javana and the fruit of Arahantship. That means Kiriya Javanas and Arahata Phala Javanas follow. Is it clear? Not yet? Okay, please look at the chart again. Take the Kamavajara Kusala. How many? 8. Among them, how many are accompanied by Somanasa? 4. Among them, how many are accompanied by knowledge?
2.
The first 2. So, after the first 2, how many Appana Javana? Appana Javana means Rupavajara, Arupavajara and Lokuttara Javanas. They are called Appana Javanas. Altogether 26. 26 means taking Lokuttara to be 8. Okay. So, after the first 2 Kamavajra Javanas, they are accompanied by knowledge. There can follow Kusala, which are accompanied by Somanasa. That means 4 Rupavajra Kusalas. And then all Magga Jetas accompanied by Somanasa. It's red dots. And then lower 3 phalas accompanied by Somanasa. So, how many? 32, right? Okay, again. After the Kamavajra Kusala accompanied by knowledge, follow 32 Appana Javanas. And they are 4 from Rupavajara, and then 16 from Magga, and 12 from Phala, right? Yeah, you get altogether 32. Is that okay? Okay. Then, what about Ubbekha? Kamavajra Kusala accompanied by Ubbekha and knowledge. 2. How many Appana Javanas can follow? They must be Ubbekha. 1 from Rupavajara and 4 from Arupavajara and 4 Maggas and then 3 lower phalas. So 3, 4, 4, 1. 12. Okay. So 12 Appana Javanas can follow, 2 Kamavajra Javanas follow accompanied by Ubbekha. So when we are talking about Kamavajra Javanas, please have in mind the thought process, jhana thought process and magga thought process at least. So in the jhana thought process, there are parikama, ubachara, anuloma and gotrabhu, right? They are accompanied by somanasa and also by ubbekha. And also in magga also, they can be accompanied by somanasa and ubbekha. So if they are accompanied by somanasa, then rupavasra first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana. And then magga also first, second, third, fourth jhana, and 3 phalas first, second, third, fourth jhana. They can follow. If they are accompanied by ubbekha, then 5th Rupavajra jhana, kusala, and then 4 Arupavajra jhana kusalas, and then 4 phalas accompanied by ubekha, and 3 lower phalas accompanied by ubekha, 12, right? So after kamavajara, kusala, somanasa, jnana samyutta, there follow 32 appana javanas. After kamavajara, kusala, accompanied by ubekha and knowledge, there follow 12, right? So this you can find out following the statement here. Immediately after a javana, after somanasa javana follows somanasa appana. After ubekha javana follows ubekha appana. After kusala follows what? Kusala javana and 3 lower phalas. After kriya javanas and arahata phala. Right? So we'll go to next. Kriya javanas. How many kriya javanas and kamavajara kriya javanas are there? 8. How many are accompanied by somanasa? 4. How many are accompanied by knowledge? 2. So after these 2, how many can follow? 4 Rupavajra Kiriyas, and then the last Arahata Phala. Kiriya, right? So after Kiriya, Magga cannot follow, and the other Phalas cannot follow. So after Kamavajra Kiriya, accompanied by somanasa and knowledge, there follow only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So 4 from Rupavajara and 4 from Phala, Arahata Phala. Then let's go to ubekha. 2 ubekha followed by ubekha, right? Yes. How many can follow? 1 from Rupavajara, 4 from Arupavajara, and the last 1. 6. Right? Yeah. So now let's check with the manual. On page 170. Following wholesome consciousness accompanied by joy, 32 classes of absorption javanas arise. So we get right. After wholesome consciousness accompanied by equanimity, 12 classes of absorption javanas arise. Right? After functionals accompanied by joy, 8 classes arise. 8 types of consciousness arise. And after functionals accompanied by equanimity, 6 arise. So I want you to fill your cards like this. Only to fill the colors, only those that apply. You have to make 2 cards. 1 for kusala and 1 for kiriya. So when you have this card, it's very easy, you see. 2 dots of red followed by 32 red dots, and 2 blue dots followed by how many? 12. And here, this for kiriya. So 2 red dots followed by how many? 8, right? And 2 blue dots followed by 6. So you get instant. So when we study Abhidhamma Sangha, we study when we are very young. So when we come to this place, if a student can find out by himself the 32, 8, and then 8 and 6, then he's rewarded with something. Maybe a set of robes or some books or something like that. So if he could do it without the help of a teacher, then he will get some kind of reward. So in the last paragraph, page 171, last means of this section, for worldlings and trainees, etc. In the case of worldlings and trainees who have attained the 3 lower paths and fruits after any of the 4 wholesome sensual jhanas accompanied by knowledge, there arises one of the 44 absorption jhanas described above. That means 32 and 12. And after the 4 functional sensual jhanas accompanied by knowledge, there arises to the arahant one of the above 14 absorption jhanas. that is, you have to add 8 and 6. Okay, this is the apana thought process. So please remember that apana means the name of what? Originally it is the name of vitaka. Then it is applied to first jhana. And then it is applied to all jhanas, magga and phala. So when we say apana jhavana, we mean mahagata and lokuttara jhavanas. So if we take lokuttara to be 8, there are 26 apana jhavanas. So now we finish the apana thought process, but we will study other mind or thought processes later. Later means at the end of the 5th chapter. For that is not necessarily mind or it could be 5 sense door and mind or thought process and death thought process, and then we will study others in the 9th chapter. Next comes the procedure of registration, the dharamana niyama. The dharamana niyama means determining the dharamana, or something like that. So which dharamana follows which jhavana, and which dharamana arises with regard to which type of object. Now, there are 3 kinds of objects mentioned here. So they are, first, anicca. You have the chart, handouts, today's handouts. So please look at those handouts. So the quality of object is determined by way of average beings. Now, we will come to that later. So the objects are divided into 3. The first one is anicca, undesirable object. The second is itta, or itta majjata. That means desirable. So objects are divided into anicca, undesirable, not desirable, and then itta, desirable. Itta majjata means average desirable. And the last one is ati, itta, very desirable, exceptionally desirable, extremely desirable. So 3 kinds of objects are mentioned here. Although there are 2 varieties for desirable, there is only one for undesirable. So only one any object which is undesirable is just undesirable. But any object which is desirable is divided into two, just desirable and very desirable. So for Buddhists, Buddha is a very desirable object. For a young man, say, a woman may be a very desirable object, and so on. So there are these three kinds of objects. And these three kinds of objects are determined by an average being. That means it will be very difficult to decide which is desirable and which is undesirable if we take into account every individual. One thing you like may not be liked by another person. So one thing desirable for you may be undesirable for another person. So how do we decide, how do we determine which is desirable and which is undesirable? In the commentaries, it is said that they are determined with regard to average persons. Say, if you are a king, if you are a very rich man, then some ordinary things will not be desirable for you. But if you are a very poor man, then even a small thing will be desirable for you. So we do not go by very rich people and very poor people, but those of average wealth, the average people. So if it is desirable for average people, it is supposed to be desirable. And if it is undesirable for average people, it is considered undesirable. So there are three kinds of objects. Either we decide by way of average beings, there are also other things to take into consideration. Now, one teacher said that we should determine the quality of objects by vibhaka. That is just saying the other way out. If the consciousness is acquisitive vibhaka, it must be undesirable. If the consciousness is kusala vibhaka, then it is desirable. So, and that is real states. And it is said that also by way of doors, we can determine the quality of the objects. And the example given is excrement. Excrement is undesirable to the eye. Right? You don't want to see excrement. And to the nose, it is undesirable. But to the touch, it's a good touch. So, according to the touch, it is desirable. But according to the sight or smell, it is undesirable. So, sometimes you have to decide, through dwara. Now, if a flower, some better flowers better to but beautiful flower. So it is desirable according to Chakudara, Aridara. What is undesirable according to Vasdara. And also in summer, cold is desirable. When we feel hot, we turn on fans or good air conditioning, and so we want cool or coolness. But in winter, we want heat. So cold is desirable in summer and desirable in winter. So it depends like that. So according to time,
the quality of the objects can change. But all this must be determined by true experience of an everyone, and not so very rich, very poor person. So there are three kinds of objects. See, undesirable, rich desirable, and very desirable. Now, if the object is undesirable, then undesirable what you know, somebody can know, somebody know, and the devil will know. The heart of akusala. So, blissful theory, process in mind. So, any object is undesirable object, then Pancadora Vajana must be the akusala vibhaka, right? Somebody can must be from akusala vibhaka, somebody from akusala vibhaka, and the Dharma from akusala vibhaka. The Dharma means to be something. If the object is average desirable, then the Pancadora Vajana, somebody can understand and the Dharma kusala. So in a given thought process, again, we can say if the object is undesirable, then the Pancadora Vajana akusala. If the object is desirable, then they are kusala. But they are accompanied by ubeka. But if the object is extra undesirable, then Pancadora Vajana and contradiction are the same. Kusala is better accompanied by ubeka. But, so, Santirana and the Dharma are accompanied by Somanasa. Here, the Dharma means also Kamojara vibhakas. So, at least, not this. So, if the object is undesirable, that's all. Result of akusala. If the object is very desirable, they are kusala vibhaka. Then you are called punya by aduka. And if the object is very desirable, there Pancadora Vajana somebody can know our kusala vibhaka, but that can't be aduka. But Santirana and the Dharma are accompanied by Samunasa. Determining the object. And the creator is taking them as object. No. Pancadora Vajana. Santirana. Then the Dharma are vibhaka creators. Somebody can know vibhaka. Pancadora Vajana no vibhaka. Somebody can know vibhaka. No. It is said that vibhaka is always fixed. That means vibhaka cannot vary. If the object is unnatural, it will say akusala vibhaka. If the object is undesirable, it must be akusala vibhaka. If the object is desirable, it must be kusala vibhaka. So there is no relation of that. So the vibhaka is fixed. It is like what do you call that? When you look at yourself in the mirror, the image in the mirror. The mirror is the same as yourself. So it's something like that. Vibhaka, something like the result of karma. There is no change. And when the object is undesirable, it must always be akusala. And if the object is desirable, it must always be kusala. So vibhakas are fixed. Thought process we do not of this. Whether if undesirable, then you have to take out the short, kusala we back. But Joe now stands there. Why is no fixed rule for Jonah? Even though the Jonah can be kusala. Oh, kusala. I know this woman is Ubuka. Now, suppose a very desirable object. What is a desirable object? Those who let's say the Buddha is a very desirable object. Not for those who have no faith in the Buddha, those who are not Buddhists. They may not have some knowledge Joanna. They may have Obuka Joanna. Well, the ones who are not around have this. That version of you. Something like that. Let me see. The version of perception. Yeah. So, because those are known or have a version of perception, that means our perception of things is very desirable. The Jonah can be and for those who are enemies of the Buddha, are taking Buddha as an object, so the quality of Jonah is not fixed, the quality of objects. It depends on one's own understanding, one's own oneness, and so on. Now, suppose those who have can look at the unresolvable object, look at the objects. They may not have Akusajamas. Those whatever. Now, when you have meditation, suppose you do this, I don't know what it is. I think you let it be called. Undesirable object. But there you don't have Kusala Joanna. And there are Ubeka Joanna. No. That is. But for dogs, they are different. Some of that is Joanna. And this year, so, for dogs, the version of perception of things, so we're not getting the so when there is no by the quality of but the rebirth are fixed to the objects. And the variable rebirth must be of Akasa. If the object is variable, rebirth must be of that Jonah is very Jonah, maybe so there is suffering. Rebirth of it. But Jonah is very bottom photograph. Accompanied by God. There arrives what is set in my moment. jewelry. That means someone has happened to you. So you buy someone has a remember. Okay? Someone knows how to give you a jewel now. So you buy someone knows a jewel. Yeah? How you know a company by a company? They registered in my movement. So, what do you call it? For that? You know, I don't know. But you, so that's what I was. Someone was an Uber call. So oh, yeah. How much you look at? So, this person is so old, so you do it. If you, oh, you have to, let's look at the track. I'm not that good, you have to, you can be all about. Come on, we brought out the girl, so, and then I'll be glad you all the other things. Well, I'm sorry, but if you say, about someone else will tell you, followed by someone else at the door, I'm not. Oh, no, you actually are so nice. Right? Oh, I have to go back. Hey, fight. You fight. Oh, that's what I'm going to say. I can do that. So I'm going to say one. So this I can say about fight that I don't know. So much for that already. Oh, not do that. I have that too. I'll follow by it. Oh, elaborate. You know that. We about that. I'll follow by it. You got it now. So please look at it. What is and what am I? So don't do it. Now, what about no Melissa? What do something right? Dia full about the devil mono, then the lava, and the light, Utica. The yellow because you are so, you can only have a done. So, it is only bad with the crown, the devil. So, no.
Okay. Now, Domanasa. So, Domanasa javanas can be followed by Ubeka, the Dharamana. And Bhavangas also must be Ubeka. Now, please note this, because when we come to thought process with guest Bhavanga, we must understand this. So, Domanasa javanas can be followed by only Upeka, right? Upeka Tadaramana and Upeka Bhavanga. That's okay. So you have the Domanasa javana, and if there is the Dharamana, then the Dharamana will be Upeka. And if there is no Dharamana but Bhavanga following the javanas, then Bhavangas will be Upeka. That's all right. But there is one problem here, a dilemma. Suppose you are born with Somanasa Padisandhi. If you are born with Somanasa Padisandhi, your Bhavanga must be Somanasa, right? During the whole of your life, your Bhavangas must be Somanasa. They cannot be Ubeka, because they must be identical. Padisandhi, Bhavanga and Chuti, right? So, you are born with Somanasa Patisandhi, and so your bhavangas are always Somanasa. Okay. You are an enemy of the Buddha. So you see the Buddha and you are angry with him, and so there is Domanasa Javana. And if there were no Dadaramana, bhavangas must follow, right? What kind of bhavanga must follow? After Domanasa, Somanasa bhavanga cannot follow, right? But you have Somanasa bhavanga, so there is a dilemma here. I'll say it again. After the Domanasa javanas, if the Dadaramana were to follow, what kind of Dadaramana will that be? After Domanasa javana, Ubeka, right? Ubeka Dadaramana. But the object is very desirable. So when the object is very desirable, Dadaramana must be Somanasa, right? On the sheet, if the object is ati eta, right? Say Somanasa for Santirana and Dadaramana. So when the object is very desirable, Dadaramana must be accompanied by Somanasa. But here, the object is very desirable. So if the Dadaramana were to arise according to the object, they must be accompanied by Somanasa. But the preceding javanas are Domanasa. And the other saying is that after Domanasa, Dadaramana must be Upeka. So there's a difficulty here. No Dadaramana can arise. Okay, let's delete Dadaramana, come bhavanga. Then, what kind of bhavanga must be there? Somanasa or Upeka. After Domanasa javanas, right? No Somanasa bhavanga can follow. But you have Somanasa bhavanga all your life. So, in this difficulty, there is a guest bhavanga. he comes and helps us here. So, that guest bhavanga is actually Upeka Santirana. So, Santirana accompanied by Upeka takes that place of bhavanga. So, it is called Agantuka bhavanga. That's why I put it RBH. R means Agantuka and BH bhavanga. So it is guest bhavanga. In Jnana Bhikkhu Bodhi's book, it is called adventitious bhavanga. I think guest bhavanga is easier to understand. So that bhavanga is called guest bhavanga. So it is Ubeka. So since it is Ubeka, it is compatible with Domanasa, right? Yeah. And after that, the regular bhavangas can follow. So for that person, the thought process runs like this. Atita bhavanga, past bhavanga, and then vibrating bhavanga, arrest bhavanga, panchadwara, 5 sense door adverting, seeing, accepting, investigating, determining, and then Domanasa javanas. And Domanasa javanas are followed by 1 bhavanga, Santirana accompanied by Upeka. And then bhavanga follows. So here in this thought process, the bhavangas at the beginning must be accompanied you had Padisandhi accompanied by Somanasa. So these bhavangas must be accompanied by Somanasa. Panchadwara Vajana cannot be accompanied by Somanasa, right? It's always Upekha. And then seeing consciousness, it's always Upekha. Sampadechana, always Upekha. Santirana, here it is very desirable, so Santirana must be accompanied by Somanasa. And then Vattabhana. Vattabhana is Manodvara Vajana, and so it is always accompanied by Upekha. And then Javana movements, here Domanasa Javanas. And then Kes Bhavanga. It is accompanied by Upekha. And then Somanasa Bhavangas again. So the difficulty is solved by the Bhavanga, the Upekha Santirana performing as guest Bhavanga. Now it is examined in the commentary, sub-commentary, that what function does it do, this Agantuka Bhavanga, this guest Bhavanga. Now guest Bhavanga is Upekha, Santirana accompanied by Upekha. So it can do how many functions, normally speaking? Santirana Upekha, how many functions? 5 functions, right? Padisandhi, Bhavanga, Chuti, Santirana, Tadharamana. 5 functions. So here, can it be Padisandhi? No question. Can it be Chuti? No, you are not dying yet. Can it be Santirana? If it is Santirana, if it performs Santirana function, it must investigate. But here it is not investigating. So no Santirana. And then, is it Tadharamana? It can function as Tadharamana? No. Tadharamana follows Javana. Right? And then Tadharamana must take the object of Javana. And if it is Tadharamana, there must be 2. So only one remains, and that is Bhavanga. So it functions as Bhavanga. That is why it is called Agantuka Bhavanga. That is for Adi-Mahanta object. For Mahanta object, for great object, since it is Mahanta, the object can be any kind, very desirable or average desirable or just undesirable. So in this thought process, we have 2 Bhavangas, and then the others are the same. And then Javana followed by, again, guest Bhavanga. The only difference is in this thought process, Santirana can be either Somanasa or Upekha, depending on the object being desirable or undesirable. Now, a person may have attained jhanas, and then somehow he lost these jhanas. So he was depressed, or he was sorry for that. So when he feels sorry for that, he takes those jhanas as object. Those jhanas are Mahagata objects, right? So in that case, it is Manodvara thought process. It cannot be 5 sense thought process. So for that person, again, who had Somanasa as Padisandhi, the thought process runs like this. vibrating bhavanga, arrest bhavanga, manodvara vajana, and then domanasa javanas, and then agantuka bhavanga, guest bhavanga, and then somanasa bhavanga again. And if a person takes one of the concepts as object and then gets domanasa javana, the same kind of thought process. Here there is no question of javana, because no question of dadharamana, because dadharamana arises only when the object is a kama vajra object, the individual is a kama vajra being, and after a kama vajra javana. That is mentioned at the end of this section. So this is a thought process with guest bhavanga. Otherwise, I don't know what will happen if it does not come in, right? So let's see the end. Page 175, paragraph 19 and 20. So they hold that registration occurs only at the end of sense sphere javanas. So at the end of kama vajra javanas, only to sense sphere beings, kama vajra beings, and only when sense sphere phenomena become objects. So that means kama vajra objects. So when the object is mahagada or panyadi, there is no question of dadharamana there. And with regard to the mahanta object, there is no question of dadharamana, because mahanta objects cannot last until the second dadharamana. So with regard to ati mahanta objects, there can be the possibility of dadharamana. But here in this particular thought process, dadharamana cannot arise. So if dadharamana cannot arise, then bhavanga must arise. And that bhavanga there is a difficulty with regard to that bhavanga, because if it is to conform with the object, it must be somanasa. But somanasa cannot immediately follow domanasa javana, and so there is this guest bhavanga. Okay. Now, the fixing of the dadharamana. So, somanasa dadharamana follows somanasa javana, and ubeka dadharamana follows, say, domanasa javana, and so on. But there is no fixing as to the being accompanied by knowledge or not. So jnana sambhyuta javana and jnana vipyuta javana, right? Sometimes a person has, say, familiarity with akusala javanas, or say to that person mostly akusala javanas arise. For him, even after kusala javana, ahituka, the dharamana can arise. Because when he has akusala javana, then the dharamana is ahituka. Similarly, for one who is familiar with the arising of kusala javanas, to whom kusala javanas arise abundantly, then even after akusala javana, there can be the dharamana accompanied by jnana, knowledge. So in this case, there is no fixing. But with regard to somanasa and ubeka, or somanasa, domanasa and ubeka, there is fixing. See, somanasa javana followed by somanasa dhararamana, ubeka followed by ubeka dhararamana, and domanasa also followed by ubeka javana. But with regard to being accompanied by knowledge and not accompanied by knowledge, there is no such fixing. So they can arise. Okay. Is it confusing? Huh? Now today, first, so you have to understand the fixing of the dharamana, which dharamana follows which, and that is general rule. Then after you understand the general rule, there is this exception with guest bhavanga. So first you must understand that domanasa cannot be followed by somanasa. And then there is the problem here. If your patisandhi was accompanied by somanasa, then after domanasa javana, no regular bhavanga can follow. And so that is this adventitious or guest bhavanga. Okay. Any questions?
Which upeka sankirana arises against bhavanga?
Where?
For the yes bhavanga say after the...
That has to be determined by the object. Since the object is very desirable, it must be somanasa. You mean?
No, the guest, so...
You mean guest bhavanga?
Right. Is it always...
Guest bhavanga is accompanied by ubeka.
Upeka, right?
Yeah.
But there's resultant upeka...
Oh, you mean kusala or akusala? So since it is very desirable, it is kusala vipaka. Yeah.
But then when you explain about the function of magga chitta, destruction of defilement,
Yes.
you say the first magga destroy two kilesa, but the second magga, sakadagami, doesn't destroy anything. And how? And you say the magga only happened once, but it doesn't destroy anything. It just weaken the defilement. Am I correct on that note? And therefore, the third magga takes place to destroy those kilesa. Could you? I'm not sure I'm making the point here. The point here, you say the function of the magga is destroy the kilesa once and for all. It only happened once. That is the teaching. But the sakadagami doesn't destroy anything. and need the third magga of anatomy to destroy. How do we understand that in terms of the function of the magga?
Yeah. Now,
once and destroy, it doesn't happen again.
When we say Sakadagami Magga does not destroy any kilesas, that means it does not destroy kilesas all aspects of the respective kilesas, but there are layers or degrees of gravity in kilesas that can cause you to reborn in four woeful states, and kilesas that cannot lead you to four woeful states. And so when we say the Sotapaddi Magga destroys wrong view and doubt, we mean it eradicates wrong view and doubt altogether. But it eradicates Lobha, Dosa and Moha also. But Lobha, Dosa and Moha, that can lead him to four woeful states. That kind of Lobha and Dosa and Moha also he eradicates. So during the second stage, he eradicates some more degrees of the Lobha, Dosa and Moha. Although any one of the kilesas is destroyed altogether, but their degree, their what do you call that? Say levels. Their levels are eradicated by the second Magga also. So that is why we say Magga eradicates mental defilements. Now, first Magga destroys two altogether, and others that can lead to four woeful states. Now, second Magga eradicates some layers of the remaining mental defilements, or according to the books, the sensual desire and ill will. So that layer of the kilesas, it destroys once and for all. But say the subtler layer still remains, and that is eradicated by the third and the fourth. So I think there is the eradication of mental defilements with the second Magga also.
So the four maggas are distinct, right? Mutual, it related in a way that it eradicates whatever the other left unable to do. So the next one will do it, or the next one. But they are distinct, right? There is not really a
overlapping. There is no overlapping.
Different. They are different.
They are different from.
One from each other.
I'm not sure they are really totally different or totally unrelated or related or a kind of.
They arise differently at different times, right? So we cannot say that they are related. But they have the common function of say, eradicating mental defilements. So to take Nibbana as object and eradicating mental defilements is the task of path consciousness. Not only path consciousness, path, along with its mental states. What do you understand?
It seems like one arise only one time. One body arise only one time. Do whatever it can do.
Yeah.
And then it no longer arise.
Right.
Then there is another arise to do whatever the other one left undone. And it does whatever it can. And it led to the next one, do whatever the next one can do, and it cannot do.
Yes.
So that's how it happened.
Right.
But because of that, when can we absolutely say that Magga doesn't arise again? It doesn't based on that. But see, it doesn't finish the job. We need another Magga to do.
Yes. Yeah.
So that not completely say that Magga doesn't rise again. That's what
I think we should be specific. Magga Cheta doesn't arise again means Sotabati Magga doesn't arise again, Sakadagami Magga doesn't arise again, and so on. But if we take Magga as general, or common, then we may say Magga arises. But since we have to deal with individual Magga consciousness, we have to say this does not arise again.
I think that you touched right on the point. I couldn't.
Okay.
So we need to understand clearly that Sutapati Magga is different from the second level.
Oh yes,
so we have to clear that.
Right. They are different Maggas, and they belong to different stages. Yeah. Okay, what?
His question is to different persons. If they obtain the first Magga, for example, like we wish we can. He has a first Magga. I had a first Magga. Do they have the same degree? That's what his question is. Power.
I think if Magga arises, it must have the same function of eradicating the mental defilements. So in that case, they are the same. I mean, different. Say one Sotabati Magga arises in one person, another Sotabati Magga arises in another person. But since they are Sotabati Magga, their function is the same, eradicating mental defilements. But like we say, my Kusala Cheta and your Kusala Cheta. Although as Kusala Cheta they are the same, but it is my Kusala Cheta and your Kusala Cheta. So in the same way, it is my path consciousness, and the other is your path consciousness, something like that.
So Bhante, is that then appropriate to use the term power of Maggasita? Is that term correct to use?
Power?
Of the Maggasita. Like you say, like the Maggasita in one person may be different in terms of the level in another person, so it's talking about the power of that Cheta to describe the Kilesas. Is that term correct, or we should focus on using the term function and not putting a value on the power of that Cheta?
Magga, I think function is better, because it is a function of Magga, right, to eradicate mental defilements. But this function can be taken as power. It's better to stick to, function. Yeah. In the 9th chapter, there are mentioned 4 functions of Magga. Comprehending fully the first truth, eradicating second truth, realizing third truth, and developing fourth truth. So these are said to be 4 functions of Magga. So among them, one is eradicating the second noble truth. So I think the eradication of mental defilements is to be called function of the Magga. Okay. Oh, yes.
On page 165 of the manual, it mentions that object and God are continuum of consciousness, knowledge of Alanga, and the object comes into range of cognition at the mind world. And I wonder, does this include the karma and sign of karma and sign of destiny? Are those ever known?
Yeah, which paragraph? Page 165?
Yeah, 165. It's in the second paragraph toward the bottom. The perpetual buzz of activity in the Bhavanga.
That's the result of the perpetual buzz of activity in the Bhavanga. When an object acquires sufficient prominence through other recognition, it draws a continuum of consciousness out of the Bhavanga. And then that object comes into the range of cognition at the mind door.
I don't know what the sign of karma and the sign of destiny, how those manifest themselves in life if they leave. And I wondered if this would include them as well as others.
So Bhavanga Chitta is its own object. It is one of the 3, right? Kama, Kama Nimitta, or Gati Nimitta. But the Lady Zara says it occurs in the mode of inclining towards some other object. That means maybe it is waiting to get some fresh or some vivid objects. Now, Kama, Kama Nimitta and Gati Nimitta are something like obscure objects. So, although it takes one of these 3, it is like waiting for something to pop up so that it can take it.
So those are those ever known? Do they ever become known, or it must exert influence of some kind?
I think it is not the influence of karma or the others, but it is the impact of object to the mind. You know, when an object comes into the avenue, it strikes at both doors. Let's say, seeing, a visible object, the eye and the mind. So that's object coming into the avenue of mind door or striking the mind door is the cause for Bhavanga, say, to stop and take the take that object.